Good morning everyone, welcome to my channel. So I believe we're coming to the very end of the project. So let me bring you up to speed with what I've done. I went around the perimeter of the panel and did those knots tying it all together. Then, so they're right around the whole outer edge. Lots and lots of little knots catching the lining to the actual decorative panel. So it worked a treat. Then the actual, through the center, I just picked some rough lines and did random knots through. I didn't make it as dense as I did on the edge. On the edge, it was about the width of my thumb. Every thumb width, I do another knot, right around the whole perimeter of my panel. But through the middle, I sort of just used that sort of measuring tool and that measuring tool and then just picked where it went. If it was right in the middle of the flower, I didn't put one there. I really feel like the fabric has held really well with just a few little scattered ones through the whole piece. But around the outer edge, there's heaps of them. So it's not going to go anywhere. I then turned the panel at the bottom up as planned, which was about 3.5 inches from memory, or 10 centimeters. So yeah, 3.5 inches, so nothing changed there. I then took my needle and thread and secured, let me show you, I secured the end seam, so that's all stitched, just with some little invisible stitches through. I then, once I did that at either end, it held the bottom flap up. So I'm just going to come out a little bit further so I can sort of show you what all transpired as I sort of started the next stage. Once I stitched the sides down, so the flap was now just up, I then worked out the middle. Now I had about 28 inches, 28.5 inches. So around the 14.5 inches I decided was my middle. I stitched through here to hold that in position. Then I found the next middle point, which was here, about that 7 and a bit, and the same over here. I then slid in the postcards and I found that the pocket was probably a little bit too luxurious with a seam there and a seam here and a seam here. There was just a little bit too much slippage. So I then came in another 1/2 inch and just popped a tiny little stitch here and here, which stops the postcards from flipping around. Now this pocket in particular, I really want to include the little brochure the girls gave us for the textile tour. Now it's slightly bigger than the postcards. So being it's the last pocket I need to secure, I can put my little stitch in exactly where I need it. So what I guess I'm trying to say, if you had some maps or some flyers in addition to the postcards, this extra little stitch that I'm doing to stop things from slipping and sliding can be put wherever. So you've got a bit of wriggle room, because the main stitching is here and here to hold the flap up to create the pocket. But then I've just tucked in a couple little stitches here just to stop everything moving. So if there was something wide, you may not need to do that. And even the pocket without it, the postcards could go this way. So you've got a few options basically. Whether you do the stitch or not really comes down to, you know, what's happening with your goodies that you're putting inside. So it's so flexible and I'm just loving it. So what I've got left to do, which I'd bring the camera down and show you, is I do need to do the final line of stitching through here. So I left that to do with you guys. Oops, I need a knot. Forgot the knot. So this is me just making that seam. Now I know at the beginning of the series I did toss around the idea of putting in some lace booklets which you could still do. I don't think I'm going to, because for a couple reasons. I think this project has had enough time and energy put into it, and I think the lace booklets I'd like to do on their own at a later date, like make an actual lace sample booklet. So if I went ahead and did it with this project, I sort of think that everything's in here with it. Does that make sense? Like the laces are represented by a couple already on this, so it's not like they're not here. I think I'd like to explore the lace booklet in a little bit more depth and maybe do some embroidered flowers. Like some of these fabrics have fantastic floral images on them, so I could potentially do, you know, a project connected to that. So that's where I'm sort of at with the booklet. I will show you how the booklet would go in if you were wanting to add a booklet. It does work. It's probably not as good as it could be, but it does work. But I'll show you that in a moment. I was getting so many layers of fabric here that it's actually quite difficult to get my needle through to stitch this little seam down. And then I want to slide the postcards and the brochure into this big pocket and then put in those extra little stitches just to make sure that they don't flip-flop around too much. Okay, not on camera. Sorry guys, hang on a minute. Let me just reposition. So just take your time and put some little stitches through. I did give myself a few markers with a heat erasable pen, so I sort of know that I'm going straight. And I'm just scooting down that seam, and that's the last stitches needed to make those big pockets. Really happy with the way the project's come together. It's such a great way to showcase postcards from somewhere. Plus, if you've gathered fabrics, like I've seen quilt tours of the USA. Could you imagine what you could do with a postcard wrap like this, having collected textiles from the USA? Oh, be beside myself. So now I'm just going to slide in the postcards. Now remembering I've got my brochure there. There are a few maps and things like that that I brought back as well, so they'll also be tucked in to some of these pockets. I think I worked out I've got about 30 postcards. Now I did work out a little trick to this too. I went onto this edge. Have I got a knot? No. Went onto the edge and did a few stitches first, just to secure my thread into something substantial. Then I poked my needle through, had a look at where it popped up. Is it anything that's super important, like a piece of paper that can't have a needle through? That was my only real consideration, and I know that's sort of up here in that space. So I'm good to go. And it's just a case of cinching in the width of the pocket. There's an opportunity there that, say you collected something that was lineal, like a pen or, oh, I don't know. What else would be tall and thin? You've got a little gap there that you could slide a pen into. So it could be a writing, you know, a pen is with you on your tour, for example. what am I trying to say? See, like that? There's a little gap there. So you could have a pen in amongst your postcards. Like a writing, oh, I don't know. You're sending postcards home is what I'm trying to say. If anyone still does that. Okay, so now the last lot of postcards can slide into there. All right, so postcards are all in. I've stitched down the flap and the ends, so that's not going anywhere, that folded up section. And of course I've added those few extra little stitches just to stop everything wriggling, and I've stitched it according to what's going into the pocket. So if you had a pocket that only had a few little postcards in it, you might want to cinch it in here. You might have maps, things like that. So that's the theory behind that. Now the other thing I've done, and I will finish the second side, then that just folds down. Okay. Now, I have gone and stitched the cord that I considered using right at the very beginning, and I'm still going to use it. This was gifted to me from Pauline, who was our tour lady in France, the girl on the ground in France, as part of a little gift pack. So I thought it's a perfect place to use that, and I think it matches reasonably well. I went looking through my little collection of laundry labels, and I have my very own initials, so I've stitched that into position. And I did think I might have some numbers. Now I've got a collection of really old labels, and then I managed to find a box a few years ago with CM on them, so I've always got these to put on my work. But I know I've got numbers in here, and I was hoping that I could find a 23 for the year, but I can't. I found a few numbers, but not the number I need. But what I did find is quite a large, now I need to just spin it around a bit because I need to complete this side. So what I did find is a really big laundry label, a real old girl. The initials are VD, means absolutely nothing to me, but I figured it's now got a home. It can go there just as a little decorative detail. So the plan is to now stitch on the second piece of ribbon with a few little stitches. So at the moment I've just got a pin holding it into position. This is what I did on the other side, so I sort of left this side undone so you can see how I attach the ribbon for tying it closed. Do you need this? Probably not, but it does look rather cute to open the booklet up to be greeted by a bow. I really like it. It's probably not necessary because it folds in on itself, but it looks rather cute, and it's a nice way to include this piece of ribbon that was gifted to me. So I'm putting it in once I stitch it, and I've tucked it in between the lining and my decorative panel on the front. So we're sort of down to the finishing off stages. Now, once we've got this stitched on, it's not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to put it up the right way, girl. Just lay down this little guy. I feel cack-handed. I feel like I saw some of these little laundry labels for sale in the flea market on the final day, but you sort of got to be a bit of potluck that you get your initials. A couple of the girls nabbed their initials, but a few we looked for them and we just couldn't find it. I got mine on Etsy. The stores that I've bought the odd French thing from, I've got in the descriptions below. sometimes they have quite a large range of laundry tags. There are heaps of other sellers. You can often buy mixed bags, so it's like a who knows what you're going to get type of scenario. Or occasionally you can find businesses that have a heap of the actual letters, and you can then peruse the list and you might be lucky enough to nab your initials. They're a lot of fun. I use them to sign my work now. So if you do keep hunting and you can find some, you've got the potential then of stitching these little antique laundry labels on. Now, I guess the story behind them is back in the day, no one had washing machines, let alone a space to do a lot of washing. So if you were rich enough to be able to send your laundry out and you weren't with the peasants washing them in the local creek or a bucket of water, if that's all you could get, and you were rich enough, you would send your linens and your undergarments to be washed at a local business that would be laundering everything. So that they knew what belonged to who, a laundry tag came to be the way to sort of, you know, find your goodies and make sure they return to the rightful owners. So I believe that's the story behind them. So there's heaps of them out there. You just got to hunt, especially if you want to find potentially your initials. Be great if you could, because if you're a slow stitcher and you can pop your initials on your work, it's pretty cute. You might need to do a bit of hunting. But if you put in antique or vintage laundry labels or French laundry labels, you might just come across a seller. So I'm just doing a little slip stitch around that little itty bitty label. It's a decent size. It's a bit of an odd one in the whole pile. I remember buying a little pack of 50 or so, and just to sort of suss them all out, and then I just kept my eyes open for a CM label, and then one day I come across it and grabbed it. So nearly there. So that's the cordage or the ribbon. Oh, now I've got a knot where I don't want a knot. What's going on? Why are you being difficult? Just need a couple more stitches. I feel real cack-handed. I just don't be in it. I'm just not in a good position to stitch here. I probably shouldn't have the postcard sitting in the piece, like I'm putting the horse before the the cart before the horse. Isn't that the saying? Okay, so that's good. That is not coming off. So it's just secured with then a couple little knots. I really love the tying of the piece together. I'm thinking I'm going to use that technique on my Roxy Journal of Stitchery down the garden path, because the pieces need some backing, and I've always wondered how I was going to do it, and I love it. I love the fact that it's given me like a little tassel-y feel to the project, and with slow stitch that's just more texture, isn't it? So you see all the little threads there. It's really cool. And then scattered through my work is some more little threads. I love it. Really happy with that. Okay, so let's have a look at this. The corners, let me come up a little bit. Let's come up a little bit and talk through a few more things. The corners here, they are a little bit flappy, but I do have satchels that are made out of leather that are a similar sort of setup, and they are, you know, similar. But what you could do, if this bothered you, you could put a button here with a little winding down latch. You know those document latches where you have a button and the cordage winds between the two? You could do something like that even here, 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 and here if you wanted to go to that degree. Just, it's up to you. Depends on how you feel that is sitting. The more it has sat finished, the better it is sitting. Does that make sense? I'm happy now that my postcards are not shimming around all over the place. They're really quite snug, which is really good. Now, if you were going to add additional booklets, like we tossed around the idea at the very beginning, I would still stitch it. I wouldn't put it in the middle. I'd go either side, to be honest. I would still stitch that in like so. Would go through here, and this little booklet would just be this extra little morsel to showcase things that you may have collected on your tour. Now, there'd be no reason why you couldn't put in a pocket and have some ticket stubs from museums you went to. So I've got a lot of business cards and, you know, contact details of the girls on the trip. So this little booklet potentially could be created to have some pockets on it and then stitched into position. Now, a few of the ladies were wondering how the mechanics of it would be once those books are stitched there. And this flap, I still think it would work because the flap is holding everything in position. And it's just like those lap journals where everything flip-flops out. You could consider attaching the booklet to the end here so that it was swinging on its own accord, was another idea that was suggested. But still, you still got this flap coming down. So look, it's up to you. I don't mind it. I would stitch it in and potentially do some more embellishing and then pop business cards and maybe some photos or some notes made about your adventure. I'm not going to do it this time because I just feel like I've got my lace represented, I've got my fabric represented, so I'm pretty much happy that this feels like my trip to Paris. I will still slide in my business cards and that, but into these pockets. So this flap now just comes down. Like I said, you could add some buttons and some tie points if you really wanted to, you know, go to town. Imagine a couple big, let's pretend this is a piece of fabric with a button on it and another one there, and then you could put some twine around it, but you would have to unlatch everything to get in, so whether you could be bothered. All right, now we've stitched it down, we've shrinked down the pocket a little so it's not swinging so much. Now you just fold it in on the seam line, the center, and because I've had this folded, it sits really well, and I bring the other side in. So now I've got my booklet coming together. I can now tie this off, which stops it all from flapping. Okay, and then I do the final close, and there's my booklet. So then I started thinking about how I finish it off completely. So I mentioned at the beginning that I would like a tie around it. Now I did pick up in my travels this key ring that came from Versailles, and it's supposed to represent Marie Antoinette. They were the colours in her room, and then when I leant behind me to pull it back into play, because it's been like 8 days since I've even looked at this, like how beautifully does it match? You couldn't pick it any better. So, but what I did do is the keyring had all of this bulk. I just feel like I didn't need it. So I got my little pliers out and sort of pulled it all apart, reconstructed it, and I got myself a garment pin. Now, if you didn't have a garment pin, you could easily just stitch this on. Now, I might end up doing that yet because these garment pins can come apart. But for now, that is okay for me. But if that started breaking out, I would just put a few little stitches through that ring that's there, that the garment pins through. Can you see that ring? I would stitch it into position, and then it's just never going to go anywhere. So that's what I did with the Marie Antoinette key ring. Now, I also purchased this key at Versailles. And what I've decided to do is I'm going to make my closure using this key as the decorative element. Now, this braid was part of all of the braids that I bought. I had a meter of it, so I'm going to donate the braid to the project. But the first thing I want to do is stitch the braid on the back so that it's attached. So I'm just going to place that there. I could probably find a little piece of lace or something that could go over it. Let's just get it stitched first. And then I know at least it is secure. And I'm trying not to go too deep into the fabric. I just want to catch. It's so thick that it's not hard to just catch a little bit of it. And I'll just double check. Yeah, that's fine. This is the fun bit. It's finishing off the last few little decorative elements. So as for the photos and videos of my trip, we've pretty much have come to the end. The only videos that I've got left that may have been of interest is when I went to the big flea market. The girls pointed out an arcade, like it's rows and rows and rows of aisles of vendors, this place. It's huge. And the girls said if you go up there, turn left, turn right, there's an arcade and there's a business in there that has the most astounding collection of antique dresses. Now, this lady, when you go into the shop, you've got to put gloves on. She's really protective. I'm looking for something that can sit over that. I think this will do the trick. So the girls said, look, if you get a chance, walk up there and have a look at it. And she's got this huge shop window that just has heaps and heaps of dresses from history. Now, what she's done is she's collected these dresses, and where she can, she's got a bit of a brochure attached to the top of the mannequin showing that this dress was on the catwalk in 1954. So it's a real look through time at couture and just general dresses of the day that went down the runways of Paris. So I guess if you were making a movie and you needed certain outfits for certain characters and certain scenes, she'd be the place she'd probably go. Now, I didn't go into her actual shop. There was quite a few people sort of trundling through, and it sort of looked like it was a bit of a tight squeeze. But what I did do is walk along those windows of her business and just hold my camera and film all of the dresses. And it's just been lovely to go back through that footage and have another look, because I miss so much, you know. It's always the way you get back to the hotel and you're like, oh, what was that again? So to have the video footage is really cool. So there's two little videos. I was filming it and this group of people came out and walked in front of me, so I stopped and then started again. So what I'll do this time is attach those two little videos, and it's just a lovely little look at fashion and this woman's incredible collection. Now, I believe those markets are open only 2 days a week. and anyone can go. It was quite an eye-opener. Of course, we were hunting textiles, so there's only a couple little areas that you'd want to go. But boy, if you bought yourself a chateau and you needed a chandelier, or you needed a taxidermied pheasant, that's where you would go. If you needed a metal reindeer that you could put in your garden, or a fountain, old books, old furniture, that's where you'd go. It was pretty amazing. Expensive, but amazing. Like, it's a bit of a touristy thing. So we certainly didn't, I don't think, get bargains. A few things probably were, but it's you'd probably have a better chance of getting good prices if you went out into the countryside and visited, you know, a market in a village where you don't have so many tourists rubbing shoulders with you, so you're sort of paying premium prices. That was the feeling that we sort of got from the place, but it was good just to wander. We were there all day. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. All right, so my braid is now attached to that far side. It's secure in the center, so I feel like it's nice and stable. You could easily pop that down on a table and you're about to show someone, you know, your postcards, and it feels quite substantial. So as for the key, now I'm just thinking I'll just wrap that around. And then I'll just poke the key through, wrapping it a couple times to secure the journal. There we go. Done. Wow. That was a mammoth exercise, but I'm so pleased that I did it, because if I hadn't have got into it straight away, it'd be one of those things, you pop it in the cupboard and one day you must do those postcard wraps. There you go. Love it. Let me know what you think in the comments. But I believe we are finished. How good does that match? Like, you couldn't pick it any better. I wonder if that will be secure enough, that garment pin. Like I said, I'd probably just pop a stitch there anyway, just to take the pressure off of it. I think I might do that. I'll leave the garment pin on there because it sort of suits the whole textile garment, you know, concept. But I'm just going to do a couple little stitches. Can't hurt. That way I know it's, you know, nice and secure. So I think that's it. Let's get our needle in there, just catching it. There are pins out there that you can buy. There's a Tim Holtz split ring pin, which if I had a thought a little bit further ahead, I probably could have worked one of those into the spine. I'll show you what I mean. Pretty sure I've got some just behind me. I use them in the journals all the time. These little split pins are good too. You can thread beads onto them. You can do all sorts with them. But I'm just going to put a couple little stitches because I just want to take the pressure off that little pin. Amazing what you can do with needle and thread. A little stitch here, a little stitch there. So I do thank you all for joining me on this journey. For those of you who can no longer travel, you've been so gracious and you seem to have enjoyed my journey. So I do appreciate your warm comments. Just, oh, you're a lovely bunch, I tell you. You're a good bunch of eggs, as my mum would say. Lovely bunch of eggs. Is that a saying in your world? Might be just a bit of a country girl saying. So I really do appreciate you joining me. I was doing a bit of research on YouTube, and Kate from Last Homely House made a comment that if you like our videos, YouTube goes, oh, look at that, everyone likes this video. Maybe we should show it to other people that have similar video viewing styles, which I thought was quite interesting. I haven't done a lot of research on what makes a good YouTube video and all of that. I just don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I'm just doing what I'm doing. But I thought that made sense. So if you want to give me a thumbs up, the like button, YouTube then might go, oh, look at that, everyone over there's enjoyed this video series, and then YouTube will show others that may search, French antiques or French fabrics or French projects, slow stitch, things like that, which I thought seemed like a good idea. So I'm going to make more of a habit now of liking videos so that I can help other people's channels sort of go out to people like you and me that go, oh, look at this, someone new. So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Bit of a short video today, but I believe my project is complete. I absolutely love it. Fantastic. All right, look after yourselves, and we will get back to our normal stitching. I really need to catch up on a bit of Roxy Journal of Stitchery down the garden path, so I believe I'll be plunging back into those projects again, revisiting the prompts and catch myself back up. All right, guys, bye for now, and we'll see you all in the next video. Bye.